Hi guys, welcome back to Drink. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a Corpse Reviver #1. Now, I only have this much cognac left in a bottle, so I am only able to make this drink maybe one time, possibly 2 times. But we're going to say that I can only make it once. So if I screw this up, if I completely mess up this tutorial, if I stumble on my words, if I fart, if I do something weird with my face, you guys are going to have to deal with it. But this is an important cocktail to know. It's a really good one. It'll revive your corpse, and that's why it's called a Corpse Reviver. So the Corpse Reviver #1 and the Corpse Reviver #2 were created by the same guy. His name is Harry Craddock. He's an American bartender that got a job at the American bar in London, and he published a very well-known, all the bartenders in the audience are going to know what I'm talking about, the Savoy Cocktail Book. And these 2 drinks made their first appearance in the Savoy Cocktail Book. In the 1800s, reviving a corpse, that was a term for you had a really horrible night or a really great night with alcohol, you're super hungover and you need to revive your corpse. That's where it derives its name. And what we're going to be using is sweet vermouth, a little bit of Applejack, and this is a very special bottle. I'll tell you in a minute why. And then Angostura bitters, of course, and then my very last little driblets of cognac. Now, the reason why this is a very special bottle is because I saved this bottle from when Laird's was still bonding their Applejack. Some of you are not going to understand what I mean, but basically bonding, I've described before, I'll describe it again, is a process by which not really it's a process and it's also a rule. So basically bonding certifies that everything that's in the bottle is 4 years old from one growing season from one single distillery. Laird's, though, when the cocktail revolution really began to take hold, wasn't able to continue bonding their Applejack because demand was too high, so they can't wait the 4 years. So they stopped bonding it. So now every time you see a Laird's 100 proof Applejack, it's not going to be bonded anymore. And I have a bonded version, so you ask me if that matters. It does matter. The difference between the bonded and the non-bonded is completely different in flavor. This has been sitting in a barrel for 4 years, and the other one has not been sitting in a barrel for as long. So it is a completely different flavor profile. So it's great because I have this bottle, and then we can really make a very, worthy drink. I don't know, not worthy, but we can make a drink that's going to taste like it did back in the day. So this calls for 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. I'm going to put 4 because I'm using a Japanese bitters dasher. And as you can see, it's kind of low. The dash is a little bit loose because the volume is low, but still it says such a measured dash, you're going to have to do 4. The next thing we're going to do is 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. And then 1/2 ounce of our bonded Applejack. And the last ingredient, 1.5 ounces of cognac. Now, when you are selecting your cognac, I like to use the Pierre Ferrand dry. The Pierre Ferrand 1840. It's cost effective. It's really good quality, and it's great in a cocktail. We're going to be using cracked ice today, so I got my ice tapper. If you don't have an ice tapper, you can use the back end of a spoon. And we're going to just put those big pieces in there, and I'm going to tap a little bit more off. You want to have the big piece on top. The reason why you want to have the big piece on top is because as it turns, you're going to see the air sort of whoosh around, and it's going to seal the chill in, and this is all about keeping this chilled. Also, this is such high-density ice that you're going to have to store kind of a lot. I'm going to go off camera for a second because I need my spoon. For stirred cocktails, I really like using this particular spoon, especially because it has an angle on the blade, or as I called it in another one of my previous videos, a spoony part. But it also has a really heavy weight on the end. This is called a weighted spoon. And then we're going to stir. Now, if you forget something, like I noticed that I just did, you can actually leave this ice in here to sit because it's such high density, it's not really diluting. Plus you have that big block that's sort of sealing that chill in. So I need to go grab my julep strainer, which is how we strain these cocktails. And so I just left it for a second, but you know, this cocktail, let's say you're in a bar and you're building a whole bunch of cocktails for service. This would be like one of the first ones that you could build and set aside while you're making other stuff because you are sealing, because it's very stable. And the reason why it's stable is because it's sitting on ice, so there's no chance that it's gonna get warm. The only thing that you have to really watch in these cocktails is dilution, but because we're using such high quality ice, it's gonna be a very little bit. Now, you know that you're done when you've done about, 30 stirs or so, 25, 30, sometimes 40. You can also watch the outside of the glass for the condensation. In old fashions, I like to lift the ice. That helps me check to see the level of liquid for dilution, and it also helps me kind of whoosh the sugar under. It's a little bit more challenging to do for stirred cocktails when you're stirring them and straining them out into a coupe or a Nick and Nora as we have here, because there's just a lot of ice shards in there and it's not gonna like come up the way that an old fashioned would. And then it looks like we're ready to strain it. Situate that properly. And then I'm gonna strain it out into our Nick and Nora. And as you can see, we've got like really good dilution in here. We have like a pretty good, 1/4 inch wash line. If your wash line's a little higher, the wash line is the measurement from, or like the space really between the top of the cocktail and the top of the glass. And you always want to make sure that you have about a 1/4 ounce wash line. Sometimes you're going to have cocktails where you're doing like a 5.5 ounce glass and it's going to be right up to the top, and that's fine, especially for shaking cocktails. You're going to get a little more volume, but this right here is perfect. So here you go, the Corpse Reviver number 1